What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the Thomas Gallery, and today I want to talk about artistic license. Put my glasses back on. Yes, I wear glasses. Artistic license. And what is it? What is artistic license? Well, from my understanding, artistic license is generally defined as when you're taking certain creative liberties in the plot of a story. Okay? For example, you may see a movie like X-Men or like one of the Marvel movies, right? Like Spider-Man, X-Men, like I'll say Spider-Man for example. In the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, once he was bitten by the spider, he had the webs come out of his arms, the actual physical webbing out of his arms. However, in the original comics, he built a machine that shoot webs, right? Now, anyone who knows the comic book or who knows the character from his origins knows that he built a machine that shoots webs. Not he did. It's not that he had the actual webbing coming out of his skin. Okay, like an actual spider would. He had a machine built, mechanism built. That's artistic license. The X-Men movies. People know the X-Men from wearing the yellow and blue outfits. Okay, but in the movies, they wore a lot of black with some color accents in there. Also, you have like the original members of the X-Men, because anybody who reads the comics, the X-Men comics, know that the original members are Angel, Beast, Jean Grey or Marvel Girl, Cyclops, Iceman, and Professor X. Okay, but in the movies, you have Cyclops and Jean, but they always switch it. They will have Iceman coming at the same time as Rogue, but we know that's not the case. Let's see. You have like something like it's known that Mystique and Nightcrawler are mother and son, but in the movies they're shown as not actually knowing each other in the beginning, but they're mother and son. Let's see. You'll have the fact of Juggernaut and Professor X being related by marriage, but in the movies, they don't know each other. That's called artistic license. And what that simply means is, as long as you don't miss some very pivotal key points in the story, you can kind of play around with other things, right? Like Spider-Man, you know that like that Uncle Ben, Spider-Man's uncle, Peter Parker's uncle, has to die. Okay, the plot is Peter Parker's uncle was killed by the robber that Peter Parker didn't stop. But you know that Uncle Ben has to die. Certain things have to happen, and as long as you keep that in mind, you're okay. Okay? Like, certain things have to happen. Like, Bruce Wayne's parents have to die. Alfred has to look after him. As long as you stick to the main plot of the story, you can kind of play around with certain things. Like, we know the X-Men didn't start off having didn't start off having black outfits. They start off with blue and yellow. We know that. That we know. But it's not a bigger story than the actual plot of the story, like the Professor X going bald and being paralyzed and all that. You have to, certain things you have to keep in line with the story in order for you to have the luxury or the license to play around with other things. You have to. Okay? Like for the longest time, no one knew the relationship between Wolverine and Sabretooth. No one knew that for many, many decades. It wasn't until the movies where you started to explore the plot of Wolverine and Sabretooth being brothers. Okay? That really know each other. But you have to deal with the fact that Wolverine lost a big part of his memory. That you have to do. That way you can explain some of the holes in his life. Like, okay, he doesn't have a big part of his memory from his past, so maybe he doesn't know that he's Sabretooth's brother. So you can kind of play with that. That's artistic license. Artistic license is simply sticking with the main story, the main plot, and when you do that, sticking with the main rules of it, but once you do that, you're able to play around with certain things. But as long as you keep the main meat of the story intact, you have to keep certain things intact. Certain characters have to come in at certain times. Certain characters have to die. Certain characters have to be born. Certain characters got to have certain powers. Like, you have to keep certain things intact in order to have the license to play around with certain aspects of the story. But you have to keep the main thing intact. Once you do that, once you keep certain things intact, you can say, okay, I can play with this, I can tweak this a little bit. Okay, that's fine. You could do that. Like, why haven't we seen, a lot of Shadowcat and Colossus? Right? Why haven't we seen a Rogue and Gambit scene in the movies yet? Now, those are big parts of the story, and we may see them later. We may see them later on. All I'm saying is, in the movies that have been out so far, those things haven't been touched on. But you had scenes with Gambit, you had scenes with Rogue, you've had scenes with Colossus, you had scenes with Shadowcat. Now, maybe in the future they'll play with that, but until then, they don't really touch those things. They kind of veered off from it. That's artistic license. But they kept the main plot of the story. They kept the main part. Once they did that, they can kind of tweak certain things to fit whatever they want to fit. That's called artistic license. Okay? Alright. Well, that's all I got for today, for now. Post your comments down below. Let me know how y'all feeling. Check it out. And like, subscribe, and share. I will talk to you all later. Peace.